It is May of 2021 and I have just planted a whole mess of plants. This is a Japanese haskap, one of Dr. Maxine Thompson's varieties called Sugar Pie. I've got a white currant right there, and I've got a honey bunch right there, and I have a solo right there. And the interesting part is I planted them very close to a bunch of walnut trees. There is a medium-sized walnut tree about 30 feet away. There is a huge walnut tree about 75 feet away, and there is a even bigger one about 40 feet away. So all three of those enormous walnut trees are definitely within the root zone of these plants. So earlier reports have suggested that these honeyberries are not juglone tolerant, and you know, it makes sense, but one of the things I wanted to test with this is a lot of the earlier varieties of this were mostly of Russian heritage, and these are purely Japanese heritage. Also, there are no native walnut trees to Russia, but there are native walnut trees to Japan, and most honeysuckle plants are tolerant of juglone, including a Japanese honeysuckle. So I would suspect that these plants might actually be tolerant to juglone, whereas some of the earlier cultivars, which made it into the hobbyist hands, were much less tolerant of it. Anyways, I wanted to run this experiment, and so I would expect that these plants might double in size in the next year. And if they do, then that would indicate that they have a decent amount of tolerance. So I have planted knockout roses over here in the past. This area does get a decent amount of sun. It gets probably 6 hours of sun a day, which is not bad. And I thought, I couldn't figure out why the roses wouldn't survive here. I figured it might have been like soil pH or something along those lines, but never did figure it out until I discovered that roses absolutely hate juglone. And so they just kind of withered and fell apart, but it took like 2 years for them to fully die off. So this experiment might take a certain amount of time before we'll actually know the answer. But the thing is, they never really put on much growth any year. They sprouted and they kind of languished and never really flourished much. So I guess one way to test early would be if these guys grow significantly year after year, then it would seem like they have some tolerance of black walnuts. Anyways, if you want to hear how they are doing next year, then leave a comment and I'll post an update, so that if you guys are interested in planting next to black walnut trees, then and you know, if this is a success, then great, and if it's a failure, at least you won't waste the number of plants that I'm going to waste. Anyways, best of luck to you. Happy gardening.